interviewing Dr. Faye Mandell, who is actually an expert on being in and getting to the present, the here and now, or where we can actually say I am, as is the center of your model. Faye is a Ph.D. in counseling psychology from Boston College and is an organizational effectiveness consultant who founded a number of companies, of which the latest being Present Incorporated. She's written a number of books, of which one book is titled The GPS to Self-Powerment, which is translated into English, Spanish, German, Korean, French, and also my language, Dutch.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. The book is recommended by Eckhart Tolle, who is known from the author, who's the author of The Power of Now and his work of being in the present moment. I think he's definitely an expert, and he calls your book an eminent and practical book and a powerful pointer to the truth. So I think it's a great pleasure and honor to talk with you here. You've been working around the US. I don't know, also, actually, as we just learned, you've worked in Holland, in Amsterdam with Nike. You've worked over the world for 30 years for Fortune 500 companies, for smaller companies. And always, I think you've helped people to focus, be at choice, and to be clear.
Oh, good.
It's an absolute pleasure, Faye, to be with you here and to be able to ask you some questions about being present. First of which, I want to be talking about your model, the self-powerment model, but there's some questions that I have that I feel I want to ask you before. What does it mean, Faye, to be in the present?
Okay, it's very clear that if you look at other sentient beings, like cats and giraffes and lions, they're all in the present moment. They don't have the capacity to think, so they are constantly listening to the information from their body, and their body guides them, because everything you need to know about being a human is already inside your body. A cat knows how to be a cat, a lion knows how to be a lion, and we know how to be humans. But to access that, you have to be able to hear the information in the present moment. When you think about something, you move in linear time. Therefore, you are never present when you are thinking. And so I ask people, one of the first questions I ask people is, how much time do you spend in any one given day from 0 to 100% thinking? And do you know what the answer is that they give me?
Probably 100%.
Or close to that. Yeah, 198, 97, but it's all around there. And so they can never access the information from their body about how to be a human. So how do they then learn to be a human? They learn to be a human by what the culture has told us are the values of human beings. And the culture has told us the values of human beings so that we can do what the culture wants us to do, not what we want to do. And so we are really in the matrix, and we don't even know it. And what I have developed is a way to get out of the matrix. And that's where, and how great is that? You don't have to be in the matrix. And so I've spent my whole life, except that people they don't even know that there's another way to be. And so they're happy in their little, illusionary world of reality. And and so it's hard for them to believe that there's another way to be that's more meaningful, that's more creative, that's more connected to the universe, that's more connected to nature, that's more connected to, in the present moment, you experience that everything is connected. So if I'm talking to you and I'm of service to you, that's going to help every single other person in the whole world, because, and other sentient beings. We are all connected in the quantum field. And so and people say, quantum what field? What are you talking about? But the point is that there's a whole other way to live. And you can live through thought, or you can live through experience. And I'm an experience girl.
That's actually tuning right into my second question. I wanted to ask you, why is it important for people to cultivate this presence, or cultivate the ability to be present or to be in the here and now?
Okay.
I think,
So when the sperm hit the egg and you became you were given everything you need to know about how to be a human. And so you know how to be a mama, and you know how to be a friend, and you know how to be a creator of ideas, and you know all of these things. And it's all on your DNA. It's all in your body. It's all Your body is the most miraculous experience we have ever been given. We recognize 1/1,000,000th of what our capacity is in our body. And so the idea is that when you're thinking about something, you don't have access to the treasures of how to be a human. And that's why people are not human. That's why they hurt each other. That's why they are greedy. That's why they take, that's why they hurt animals. They don't have the connection to the natural state of being human. In America, there's a $3 billion industry of self-help books to learn how to be parents. And it's absolutely amazing. Do you think that the Lioness went to Barnes and Nobles and bought a book about how to be a parent? They don't do that. They know how to be parents. It's all on their DNA. We know how to be parents, but we are never in the place where we can access that information because we were always thinking, and thinking by definition is an abstraction. So it takes us out of the present moment. So we can never get the jewels because we're not in the right place.
So it's the thinking that's preventing us actually from being a human being.
100%. 100%. Because most of thinking is not pure. Now, thinking in the Buddhist sense or in scientific sense is wonderful because it's really what Einstein used it for. He used it for thought experiments. We use it for imagination, to create possibilities. Like, how can we make sure that every child in this world is not hungry? That's how thought was meant to be used. But what happened was feelings are not accepted in our culture. In America, never, but in most cultures, the same.
Yeah.
And so feelings are the information that lets you know that your body needs to create an action because it's not in homeostasis. I'm using a big word, homeostasis. I'm not sure everybody in the world understands that, but what it means is that your body is at its maximum functioning. It's functioning at its best. And when it goes off a little bit, the body lets you know this through feelings. But since culture has charged feelings negatively, we don't pay attention to them. There were more women on anti-anxiety drugs in America than any other drug that there is, because the culture doesn't want you to feel your feelings. Because if you felt your feelings, you would create the actions that would keep you healthy and self-powered. You would know what to do, so you wouldn't need 90% of what they tell you that we need.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
And this is, I think also that we're so unfamiliar in many cases with being with our feelings that it's such an uncomfortable experience that we'd rather suppress it with either alcohol or drugs or with big goals or ambitions or careers or families or whatever it is, but it's often outside of ourselves.
It's definitely outside of ourselves. There's no question. Feelings are inside of ourselves and everything else is outside of ourselves. And the issue is that we have to, my favorite tool, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Star Wars, where they had the Jedi and the Force, The Force for human beings is attention.
Intention, yeah.
Attention, ATT.
Attention, okay, yeah.
Where we put our attention determines what we perceive. Yeah. And so most of us don't have any idea. Actually, I did a podcast just a few days ago talking about making a relationship with attention. And that your attention is where you choose to focus, and you choose to put your focus, your attention, your energy on. Usually, people just get pulled into reaction or defense responses or worry or all of these other things because they don't have control of how to do their attention. So I do this little exercise with people, which is, this is my mouse and this is my phone, okay? So I want you to put your attention on my mouse. Now take it off my mouse and put it on my phone. Now take it off my phone and put it on my mouse. Okay, now take it back off my mouse and put it back on me. Did you feel, even though I was directing you, that you had the capacity to make a choice as to where to put your attention?
Actually, I was following your lead, yeah.
Yes, but you took it off of one and put it on the other, and you took it off one and put it on the other. So you chose, whether I told you to do it or not, you chose where to put that attention.
Yeah.
Okay? So what I'm saying to you is that this is going to be a fundamental core principle of the model, of the self-powerment model. You can choose where to put your attention.
Yeah.
So once you get an awareness that you have the capacity to control where you put your attention, you're in a whole different ballgame. Okay, so that's a key element to the self-powerment model, is being able to recognize the capacity and train yourself to be absolutely. So I describe attention as these little pixels, like on the television, you know, and you put your arms around it and you control all the pixels. You don't let a couple out to be going into reaction, or you don't let a couple out to be defensive, or you don't. You control the pixels, and once you get
your choice. Yeah.
What?
I said it's your choice.
It's your choice. It's your choice. And that changes everything, because you are now in control of your attention.
It moves things from being reactive to proactive.
Yes, exactly. But the point is, where it comes in as the most important thing is to recognize that your thoughts are not just thoughts. Your thoughts have a feeling component, because it's the feeling that created the thought to discharge that feeling, because you don't pay attention to it. If you pay attention to the feeling, it's like if you pay attention, so now you have your force is attention. And there's a very simple physics principle for people who don't know physics, which I didn't know either when I first started this whole thing, is that bodies at rest stay at rest, and bodies at motion stay in motion, unless a force is exerted on it. Okay? So the feeling comes up. When you pay attention to it, it jumpstarts the superior intelligence of the body and recalibrates you back to presence, just like it heals a cut. Your body knows how to do this. So I'm not going to teach you. I'm just going to get you to the place where you know to let your body do what it knows how to do.
Where we realize it's up to us.
No, not only it's up to us, we have the skill set to do it.
Yes.
It's internal. We just have to be in the right location.
Yeah.
You see?
So I have two questions before I want to go into the model.
Okay.
First is a personal question. I hope you don't mind. You've spent over 30 years researching actually this process of being in the now.
Yes.
What happened for you that caused this dedication and that caused you to have this focus to really dive into this topic specifically? Right.
So there's this TED Talk, or YouTube talk, which you might be interested in. It's called Quantum Physics for 7-Year-Olds. And he talks about, he's a Ph.D. in quantum physics, and he says that in order to talk about quantum physics, you have to have another Ph.D. to talk about it. So how do you talk to people who don't know about quantum physics? And the very first thing that he says is you have to tell them why you have such a passion for it. So the question was perfect.
The last part I didn't hear. Why you have such a
passion for it. Why? So that it just fits your question. And he says if you let people know that, then they might get excited about it the way you do. Okay. Yeah. So I was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the time. And in Cambridge, Massachusetts, there's an informal law, unwritten law, that you have to be going to school at all times, no matter how many letters or numbers you have after your name. They say, hello, what are you studying? Hello, what are you learning? Okay. So it's just a law that, an informal law. So I went over to Cambridge Adult Education when I was living there, and I got their book, and it was this thick, 4,000 courses. I said, I'm not going to go through all these courses. I'm just going to pick one. Little did I know at that time that random was the order of the universe. And so I picked one. I thought I was going to take meditation or photography or something like that. And the course I picked was called Quantum Physics and the Face of God. I had never taken a physics course in my entire life. I am not a particularly religious person, so I can't, and it was given by this incredible physicist by the name of Fred Alan Wolf. And so I couldn't figure out why in heaven's name the universe would point me in this direction, okay? But I said, okay, I'm taking it, and so I'm going to see what it's like. So I go in the back of the room, and I go with two of my friends, and we decide, it's Friday night in Cambridge, so we decide that we're not going to understand.
Wait, I lost you there for a moment. You're frozen. Hi.
You are unmuted. Hello?
Yes. Your
Hello?
other.
I also want to tell you, wait a minute, allow. My power just went out. So now I'm on my cell phone.
Okay.
So, I've joined the meeting being recorded. Okay. So I figured this out. I was yelling at my friend Jason to help me, but I figured it out because my computer's just rebooting just now. So
Okay.
can we do the rest this way on the phone?
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem.
Okay, good. So
Perhaps you put it somewhere so it's fixed. That's
yes,
easy
give me
for
1
people to
second. I
watch
just need
later.
to put it in so that I don't lose my battery on this, and I'm going to put it right over here on my little guy that holds my phone.
Let me, because I still see two screens. I see one which is frozen. I don't know. Do you see the other one still?
No, because my computer hasn't even started.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You had a power cut, and you were telling me about the basic, yeah, the randomness of life, how you chose by chance this course.
Yes, I did.
Quantum physics.
I came into the course, and it changed my life because he taught me about E equals mc squared. He taught me that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. So that if you can go 286,000 miles per second squared, this table would be white light. And I said, that's ridiculous. This is a solid table. I can bounce it. I can hit it. You know. But it began to pique my curiosity about what is real and what isn't. And that's where I've spent the last 30 years, figuring out the distinction between what's an illusion and what's the truth. Yes. And so the biggest illusion we have is time and space. So I was at a meeting yesterday. This was just so fascinating. And at the meeting, the gentleman sits down and he says, we have 1 hour. And I said, well, that's okay. It's equal to all the time we need, and it's just manifesting in 1 hour in linear time. But it's that's all the time we will need to get what we need to get done. And he laughed at me because he saw that he went back into the linear mode of thinking that time was absolute. Yeah. You see what I mean? So when I realized that time and space were relative, and so the way that I did time, for example, is that, you know, I used to run a lot. I used to be on the treadmill. Now I only do hot yoga, but I do that 5 times a week. But I used to run on the treadmill, and it was 15 minutes, then it was 20 minutes, then it was 23 minutes, then it was 23 minutes, then it was 23 minutes. Now that 23 minutes was expanded in my experience to feel like 5 minutes for whatever reason. I was tired.
Recognizable, yes.
So then the other one is that, you know, you go out with friends at 7 o'clock at night and you look at your watch, it's 11 o'clock, and you say, how could that happen? It feels like we've only been together for an hour. That's where time collapses. So once you realize the relative nature of time and the relative nature of space, because space is usually experienced as empty, and we have so much, but it's teeming with energy and forces and fields and particles and all this other stuff. So once you realize the illusory nature of time and space, then what else is illusory? And like dominoes, everything is illusory because nothing is real. It's all created by our resonances on our frequencies and our 5 senses, because ultimately everything is energy. Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Jason. I feel like I'm actually a computer whiz. How about that?
Oh, you made a seamless transition to the phone.
Amazing. Amazing. So I began to recognize that what we believe is real is not. Yeah. And how we go about participating in our world is not. So how do we get back to what's real? We shift our attention from what's going on from the skin outward to what's going on from the skin inward, because where the reality is. Okay, you can't play around with what's going on inside you, but you can certainly play around with what's going on outside you. Yes. See what I mean? So my model has the elements. The horizontal line is time, and the vertical line is space. Although it's not vertical, I only had 2 dimensions. So, but space is out or in. So it's time, future, past, or space, out or in. And Einstein said that time and space were not disconnected; they were on a continuum. So it's at the intersection of where time and space interconnect that you feel secure, in control, and adequate. That you're in the present moment, where your mind is quiet, where you are in the I am. Am is a present tense verb that lets you know you're in the moment, and I is a pronoun that lets you know your attention is focused in. So you're in the I am when you are in the present moment.
The intersection of space and time.
At the intersection of space and time. Has nothing to do with schizoid affective or depression or, schizophrenia. It has to do with where you are in space and time. And that's the fascinating juxtaposition or integration of physics and psychology and spirituality and psychology, because my friend Jason tells me all the time that Buddha talked about this all the time. He said to me, Faye, you're not saying anything new. You and Buddha used to hang out together somewhere in some other lifetime, But the point is that really, truly, who'd have thought that time and space would be the vehicle to get us to emotional well-being? That's where it gets a little weird. You know what I mean?
Well, it's actually the attention, right? Where we place our attention, where we focus our attention.
That's what I told you. That's what I told you. I'm going to show you how important that is right now.
Yes.
Okay, because when you're in the I am, the feelings come, you pay attention to, this is how it should be. You pay attention to them, they jumpstart the superior intelligence of the body, the feeling gets discharged, and the body does the action. So that's the way it's supposed to be. But since nobody pays attention to the feeling has to get discharged. So it creates a thought, puts itself on the thought like a horseback rider on a horse, and gets discharged that way. The problem is thought automatically takes us out of the present moment.
Yes.
And people actually begin to believe that the content of what they're thinking about is real. That's where the illusion comes in.
Yes.
So what I show people is that when you piggyback anxiety, it takes you to the future. And the emotional fear is worry or fear. Exactly right. So when you are frightened and you're thinking about, oh my God, and what if this happens? Or I don't know, I'm going to be able to do this. All that, you have to recognize that there are two components to thought. One is the content, but two is the feeling. Mm-hmm. So you can shift your attention like we did with the phone and the mouse. If you can pay attention to the feeling. And that feeling then becomes the force, because then your attention is the force, jump starts the superior intelligence of the body recalibrates you and shifts from the attention on the cognitive stuff to the sensory stuff. So you begin to feel your tush on the seat, your feet on the floor, you begin to see the tree outside, and you're back in the present moment. Mm-hmm. That's how simple it is. But the reason why it's so hard is because every belief system that you have has to be blown up in order for you to practice those 4 little steps, because the content is not important. The content is not important. How could that possibly be? How could it be that my boyfriend who didn't show up is not important? That's all my whole life. You see what I'm saying? So people say that they have to let go of the belief system that content is important. They have to add a component that feelings are connected to thoughts in a way to discharge the feeling. They have to recognize the value of feelings, which the culture tells them not to do. They have to put attention, which is their force, on the feeling. And then they have to get out of the way and let the body do what it naturally knows how to do, which is recalibrate yourself back to presence.
Okay, let me summarize and understand what you're saying. Because I've been reading, sorry?
Experience what I'm saying. I don't want you to understand it.
True.
Okay, go ahead.
Good point. Mm-hmm. Basically, what you're saying, and also what I read in the morning, is that the feelings of anxiety, frustration, and sadness,
yes,
they take us away from the present moment, from the here and now.
No, not at all. Those feelings are in the present moment. They are information from our body that says you have to create an action. But since the culture says that feelings are bad, when they come up, we don't pay attention to them. So they have to find a way to get discharged. So they create a thought. And that's where the problem comes, is the feeling gets discharged through a thought.
Okay, because how I interpret it is that these feelings, when we notice them, they're basically a marker to help us navigate back to the present.
Yes, of course.
Sorry?
Of course.
Yes.
Because the feeling lets you know that you have to pay attention to it so that the body can create the actions that you need to recalibrate you back to the present moment.
Yes, but it's when they're coupled with thoughts and these thoughts, they spiral away, that takes us away from the present moment.
Absolutely, totally. And that you say you think 100% of the time, 99% of your thoughts are to discharge feelings, because your body is constantly giving you information that it wants you to create actions to stay calibrated. So you're constantly feeling feelings that have to create thoughts to be discharged.
So actually, the model helps us become aware and present of this process, of these feelings piggybacking on the thoughts.
Yes.
And when we notice these thoughts, instead of us identifying with the thoughts and taking them one to the next and the next, and spiraling off in the future or in the past with sadness or whatnot, or in the future with fear, we can actually come back to ourselves when we notice that.
When we shift from this is important. When we shift from putting our attention on the content of the thought to where we are in time and space. So what we do is we shift from the content to the structure. How is the thought created? What if my boyfriend abandons me? Okay, 7 words.
Yes.
Okay, so boyfriend abandons what if? What if? What if they think in the future? So now I know where I am. That's why the book is called the GPS. Because when you're in your car, in the GPS, you know where you are, but you don't know where you want to get to. In the GPS to self-powerment, you know where you want to get to, but you don't know where you are.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. You shift from the content of the thought to the structure of the thought, so you know where you are. Then you know what feeling you piggybacked, because anxiety always takes you to the future. Frustration always takes you to other people and things. And sadness always takes you to the past. So you know where you are. You come back, you shift your attention, just like we did with that little exercise, to the feeling, and it jumpstarts the superior intelligence of the body, because attention is the force, and the body recalibrates you back to the present.
And then, so the step is recognizing this process, or recognizing where you are, starting the navigation, as you say, arriving back into the present, and then just being with the feeling, whatever it may be, in your body.
In your body, and that's what it is. Because then, when you're in the present, so when you're thinking about something, you get information or data. But when you're in the present moment, you get information or pattern. So it's entirely different. Pattern, P-A-T-T-E-R-N, pattern. So you see patterns, you see fractals, you see integrated data, you see clear, you see focus, you know intuitively what to do. Intuitively. You know how to be a mama. You don't have to go to Barnes & Noble and buy a book to tell you how to be a mama. I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my entire life, that you go buy a book to learn how to be a mama. How could that possibly be? Do you think the lioness does that? She creates an invisible perimeter around her cubs, and as long as the cubs stay in there, she knows that she goes where she goes far enough that if a predator comes, she can come back and fight them. But let one of those little cubs put their little nose out of the perimeter, she stops what she's doing, picks them up, and throws them back in the. Did she learn that in a book? Did she have to pay $9.95 to get the book? It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
So another,
once you see that time and space are ridiculous, you begin to see that everything is ridiculous.
So when we're taken away in time and space, it's oftentimes very eluding, because when one thought comes, it's a very convincing thought, it's a very strong thought, probably it triggers our insecurities or our fears even more,
Our insecurity. Those thoughts are insecurities and fears. If we didn't have those thoughts, we wouldn't have insecurities and fears. It doesn't trigger it. They are the reason. They are the poison. They are the toxicity. So it's not. There's no triggering. They are. So if we shift our attention to the feeling, they go away, because where your attention is, they go away, and you're not insecure anymore. And I used to do a lot of comparisons. So I would go to a party in Cambridge, and I'd say, "Oh, look at her hair; it's so pretty, and mine's not so pretty. And look at her shoes, and she probably bought those at Bergdorf Goodman, and I went to Faye, And then I'd be walking home, and I said, I wonder why nobody talks to me. And then I said, maybe it's because you're talking to yourself the whole night, Faye, right?
Mm.
Now, when I got present and I realized that I was doing comparison, which is the feeling, thought of frustration, and I came back and I decided to make a different choice, I go into the party and I sense what my resonance is and what my frequency is. And I look around and see what person has a similar frequency, and I walk right over and go to talk to that person.
Yeah.
It's just an entirely different life.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a life of awareness.
The life of awareness, exactly.
Yeah.
And when you become present, then your job is to get awareness of all the things that you thought were real.
Yeah.
And we're not.
Yeah, because the question I wanted to ask is, what do you do when you, and the answer is simple, what do you do when you get thoughts and thoughts after these thoughts? Actually, it doesn't matter how far you get into the future or how deep those thoughts take you. It's just the moment that you have awareness and that you can focus your attention, it can bring you back instantly into the here and now. Which
Instantly, it takes a nanosecond because you focus on the structure, you find out where you are in time and space, you recognize what feeling you didn't pay attention to, you pay attention to the feeling, and voila, the body does the rest.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so simple, but it's so profound because you have to give up all your belief systems. Like I had to give up 7.5 years of studying psychology and getting a degree and all of the stuff I learned there. I didn't have to get all of. Some of it was helpful, but not very much. But I had to give it up as a way to help people.
Well, a lot of that science comes from thought.
Of course.
Automatically.
In the 1700s, they all sat around Freud and Anna Freud and Jung and all these people, and they created these diagnostic categories. And they put it, and if you look at the categories, on any one diagnostic category, you could find something that you say, oh, that's me, that's me, that's me. So it's just created by humans. Anything created by humans is not natural.
Yeah.
It's just as simple as that. It's not natural.
Yeah. So another question, Faye. You work with a wide range of companies.
Yes, and people.
Big Fortune 500 companies. Why do they hire you, and how do they get to the point of asking someone like you with help about being in the present?
Okay, so first of all, do you know how much energy it takes not to pay attention to the feeling, to then take the feeling and put it on a thought, to take the thought and then take it into the future, create other thoughts that are going to, do you know how, so then when you come back to your to-do list,
it's great. Yeah.
You have no energy. And so companies are beginning to recognize that their people are not functioning at their maximum capacities. And so I come in and teach them this model. And so they don't have to use the energy to creating those feeling thoughts, and they can use it to be productive and creative, and they can use thoughts in the pure sense. A guy I was talking to yesterday went to a company and said, forget a wisdom board, do a gratitude board, then talk about how grateful you are, and then come back to the present moment, and then you'll innovate because it's natural to innovate. You don't have to think about innovating. You just innovate.
Yeah. Because gratitude puts you in the moment, puts you in the here and now.
Gratitude puts you in the moment because we're driven by 7 drivers in nature. If you are driven by these drivers, then you know you're present, and they are service, compassion, integrity. Okay, you don't need to write them. Accountability, courage, kindness, and gratitude. If any one or a combination of those are driving your behavior, you're all set. But if other things are driving your behavior, like worry or anger or guilt or regret or shame or self-doubt, no good. No good.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'll be looking into further. It will come back probably in one of these other 39 ideas for life.
It's a very interesting phenomenon because unless you're present, you can't access this information. So all of the attempts by self-help groups and all of these things, and even my dear lovely friend Eckhart, tells you to be present. But how to be present is the key. And the key is to watch your thoughts. Don't take your attention off the content to the structure. Find the time-space words. Then you know what feeling you need to shift your attention to. Shift your attention to the feeling. Jumpstarts the superior intelligence of the body, and you're back to presence. That's it.
Yeah. So actually, I think I'm understanding it better now. It's when you know where in time and space you are, then you know to which feeling you have to come back to.
Precisely.
Yes.
Perfect. And then it becomes natural. Then then the minute you know you're in the future, you pretty well in a nanosecond go back to the anxiety. If you focus on other people, you go back to frustration. If you focus on the past, you go back to sadness. And they all sit in various places. Like the anxiety sits like right in your gut area, and frustration sits in tension in your shoulders and your neck, and sadness in your heart. So you can begin to just shift. It's just an amazing shift. And when she did that yesterday, and she told me her mind closed for a moment, she could actually breathe for a moment. She was like in another state of being.
Yeah. And then it's just a question of sitting with the feeling, whether it's comfortable, discomfortable, or uncomfortable. It doesn't matter. Just be with it.
It's got to be uncomfortable, because if it was comfortable, you wouldn't pay attention to it. So you got to pay attention to it.
Yeah,
and
it is uncomfortable.
Sit with it very long, because what it does is it jumpstarts the superior intelligence of the body, and then it dissipates because it's done its job.
Yeah.
It's like a key. Let's say you have a Bentley, a beautiful car, everything, but if you don't have the key, you can't drive the Bentley.
Yeah.
So if you have all this information in your body and you don't pay attention to the feelings, you can't access the wisdom of your body.
Yeah. Another question. This process, because you've been working on this for 30 years, and
I have.
Your book, the GPS to Self-Powerment, it came out 2003, correct?
Yep.
Yes. Could you take me to the time before that, and perhaps also after, later, how you developed this method? I mean, I understand this course that you took about quantum physics had a lot to do with it, but how did the process go of you putting together this model?
It was channeled through me.
By being present.
I used to say, don't talk so fast, because I can't write so fast. I really feel that I was a channel. I really feel like I was gifted this knowledge from the universe. I don't know how else to say it. I just feel like I was chosen. I don't know why I was chosen. I had no idea about physics. I was a dancer. I had no idea. I wanted to help people, so I was going to be. Why I was chosen, I don't know. I don't care. I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I was chosen.
Yeah.
So that's how it came. It came in spurts and things, and I would have to stop doing what I was doing and sit down and write, and I'd have to put it. And then a friend of mine had all of these pages and stuff like this, and he said, just put it down in pages, and I'll make it a book. So he made it this is a great story. So he made it a book. And I went to see Eckhart Tolle that week at a talk, and everybody surrounded by Eckhart Tolle, but there's this little guy in the back. So I went over to him, and he's Eckhart's like concierge guy, and sets up his travel and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And so I gave him the book, and he he took it, and he gave it to this woman, Connie Kello, who was the publisher of The Power of Now. And and since the book is little, she put it on her nightstand, and she was getting a lot of books because Eckhart was getting more and more famous.
Yeah.
And she couldn't get to sleep that night, and so she turned around. She saw this little book on her night table. She picked it up. She called me the next day and said, "I'm going to publish a book."
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's how can you? So people, how do you get a book published, Faye? And I have no idea how to tell them how to get a book published, because it was the universe that published. I mean, why did she throw the book on the table? Why did the guy take my book and give it to? Why? Who knows why? Who cares why? It's the issue is that you have to trust that random is the order of the universe.
Well, we talked about it before I started the recording, that I found you on LinkedIn, and it just, this is the one. I have to talk to her.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how do you feel?
Actually, I feel very good. I also can share with you, at first, I was a little bit skeptical when I saw the model, and I thought, is this, because another question that I had, which I feel there's not really a need to ask it. I was going to ask, is there how it has developed since, and what new learnings did you gain? or what new insights could you add to the model? But I'm not sure even if that's relevant, because I think in its essence, it's clear as it is, and it's
where the learning occurs is that the more you let go of form, the more you learn about impermanence, the more you learn about energy, the more you learn about the more you learn about vibration, the more you learn about the quantum world, that two things can be in the same place. One thing can be in two places at one time. Something can be a wave, something can be a particle. You can have decoherence, you can decohere and then recohere over here. And we're just made up of billions of little teeny tiny quantum particles. So if we could access that information, could you imagine what it would be possible for humans to do?
Yeah.
So that's where this is going on the journey.
Yeah.
You can't even begin to ideate about any of this stuff until you're present. So presence is first.
Yeah.
When you're present, what happens in awareness is second, and the quantum field is third. So it has evolved, but the model is how to get to presence is exactly the same as when it was channeled through.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's just expanding into new realms in a way.
New realms, right? And the exciting realm is the quantum realm, because you can decohere and recohere, and you can be in two places at once, and you can be a wave and a particle, and you can do all those things, and we can do all those things, and we will. Not my generation, but maybe my granddaughter's generation. You know, maybe she will be. She's just 9 months old now, so she's got a shot. You know, who knows?
Yeah, she might carry on.
She might carry on, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's very.
I have a question to ask you.
Sure.
Okay, and you alluded to it a little bit, but I want you to articulate it. What was your fantasy about what this hour was going to be like before you talked to me versus what's the reality of having talked to me?
That's an interesting question. I think, actually, there was not a fantasy about it.
Okay.
I like to think that I can sometimes cultivate presence, which is thinking about being present. But I figured I have an open mind. This morning, I actually spent quite some time going through your model again for the second time, and it started to really make sense. And I was just basically looking forward to talking to you and to hearing more about it. And I feel that it's been already very useful, because some of my interpretations of the model have been corrected, and this has been hugely valuable. I see it now. I see how the talk that we have about the thoughts, or the words that we use, are the signals to know where we are, which can result, or which can be the triggers to bring us back to the relevant feeling. And then we can experience the feeling, and that will set us free in the here, now, in the present. So that's been a huge lesson, I'm sure. And this will be valuable for me for the rest of my life. I'm certain of it. And I hope through this blog and through this video also to other people, I'll continue to write on this and also and obviously other authors on the topic, but this has been hugely helpful. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. It absolutely did. And I love when people get it in 42 minutes. You got it in 42 minutes. The problem is, if you don't practice, you will lose it.
Yes.
So let me give you ways to practice, okay? Let me give the audience too.
Please.
The first is there's this wonderful thing called the mindfulness bell. It's an app, of course. I think it's free, and it's a gong, and it rings randomly. You set it for random, and when the gong goes off, you have to ask yourself the question, where am I? They're not Holland, not Boston, or not whatever.
Yeah, my thought. Am I in the future with others, or in the past?
Am I focused on other people, or am I doing negative stuff? Once you got that, then you know what the feeling is. So you're 2 steps already ahead of the game once you recognize where you are in time and space.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'll download it. So this is called mindfulness bell, right? Like
Mindfulness, that's what it is. It's a song, but don't listen to what they tell you to say. Just you ask yourself, where am I?
just the random sound of the bell. Yeah.
Just the random sound of the bell is going to ask you to stop doing what you're doing and just ask yourself a simple question, where am I?
That's awesome.
And then watch what happens. It's amazing. The other thing is begin to listen to people, not the content. I never listen to what anybody says.
Where they are.
I always listen to where they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, there's going to be a new area opening up, definitely.
Oh, no question. No question. So I loved it. It was great. We have to stop though because I have a 10. But two things. Number one, I want to teach in Switzerland. So please.
Sorry, you want to?
I want to teach in Switzerland or in Holland. I really would rather teach in Holland. So
we'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah.
And we'll see if there's an opportunity for that. I think definitely. I'll be talking to some people about it.
Okay, it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch. And it was wonderful.
It made me feel like a tech guru. I mean, seriously, that was amazing because I'm not very good at it. You know, I'm just not very good at it. I'm in a whole different parallel universe most of the time. But so when somebody tells me how to do something, I don't really get it. You know, the steps. But this, I wanted to continue with you, and so I made myself focus because I knew I could get you on the phone. And so there it was. You just appeared on the phone. How exciting!
That was awesome.
It was.
I'll share the video and all the content later by email. We'll definitely be in touch.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It was such a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Faye. Have a beautiful day.
Take care.
And greetings to Jason. And I'm curious to hear more about his project too.
Yes. Maybe he'll give you a call. If it's all right with you, can I?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Very good. You love him, okay?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.